All right, welcome back to The Bottom Line. Today we have Emily Rose. Emily directs marketing strategy and brand development for Lightwave. Lightwave's a dental leadership organization. She leads an enthusiastic marketing team providing dynamic support to dental leaders by amplifying their voices with patients, communities, and vendor partners. With over 15 years of professional marketing experience, Emily believes marketing communications play a part in informing, inspiring, and improving people's lives. She holds her BA and MBA from Wayland University in San Antonio. She's a California native who has lived in 7 U.S. states and Europe and Asia.
What?
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I'm an Army brat.
Dang. Oh, that's
nice.
right. You told me that. Yeah.
And along that journey, she settled in North Carolina, which is where we are. Very cool.
Right.
Where her family has resided for over a decade. In her free time, Emily enjoys teaching at her local community college, spending time with her husband and 3 children, reading, traveling to new places, and practicing yoga. Awesome.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes, thanks for being here, Emily.
And unfortunately, she's reading Coach K's book right now, which she will talk about in a little bit. Mad respect for Coach K, just saying, but we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, we got a couple of UNC grads in here, so. All right, so marketing is the topic. We obviously have someone who's an expert in the dental space, but I think most of this will apply for pretty much any growth-focused healthcare practices. So I guess let's kind of kick off with, what's the top of your dashboard, Emily? What's the high level? What are the high-level metrics that you're kind of checking every day, every couple days?
The things that are most important to me that I report to our practices back to, right, which they hold me accountable, is lead count, right? So how many leads did we generate and what was the cost per lead, right? So when you think about like that, to me, that's like when I go in and look at how a campaign is performing, those are the things that I look at. Those are what I hold our vendors accountable to. That's what I report to the practice back to. It fits sort of like, as a marketing team at Lightwave, my mission or my purpose is to amplify the voice of the dental leaders, right? And so you amplify that voice by doing marketing and generating leads. So that's what I look at.
One of the things I'll throw in there that's so hard, and Line can help with this, side note, when the word lead, right? So one thing I always tell people to challenge is when they have a number that's like, we generated X number of leads. It's just, what does that mean? Where does that information come from? What is the exact definition? And what it should be is a human being, at least for now, maybe at some point, non-human beings as well, but that could come in to get services from us, reached out to us.
Agreed.
And that is a lead, right? And there's different ways they can do that. They can call, fill out web form, online booking, chat, a lot of different options.
Yep.
Sounds simple, but I think a lot of people are operating, in my opinion, I don't know if you agree, Emily, a lot of people operate with a lead count number that isn't accurate. And if you're doing that, like, your dashboard's jacked up and then everything that flows from there, hard to make the best decisions if you don't have that lead count dialed in.
I think you're absolutely right. So one of the things we've had conversation with vendors on is how do we define what a lead is, right? So when they report out, like, I would be very clear. A lead is a phone call, a form fill, or an online scheduled appointment. That's it, right? Anything else is just extra to the funnel that helps us make better decisions in regards to like the marketing channels that we may be taking on. But ultimately, like, we report to the practice and leadership team the lead count, and that's, again, how many phone calls, form fills, online appointments.
Yeah, for example, I've come across some practices where sometimes people only think of web form submissions as leads because they have to manage the leads. And those are the ones where they have a list and they're following up, or maybe just in their email inbox, and they don't think of a phone call as a lead, which just sounds insane, right? But it's because of they're not looking at it from the perspective that you're talking from.
Yeah.
And or they're assuming that everybody who calls schedules. And so they're like, well, yeah, they're a lead, but they're in our booking system, something like that. So might sound simple, but like people that are new patients calling you are definitely leads, and you should know how often that happens.
Well, right. Well, because then it goes into, like, to your point, like, you need to know how many come in, and then you got to go to the next level and say, well, how many actually like schedule an appointment?
Yeah.
Right. Or how many
That's
went
right.
to like voicemail? Right. So when I think about, my marketing team or the marketing activities can get to a certain point, but then operations sort of needs to pick up, or your sales team needs to pick up, and there needs to be a conversation around like, lead to appointment conversion rate, right? And that goes to how many times did they follow up on a form fill? How many calls are going to voicemail, which is one of my like huge, did you follow up on the form, and
Totally.
are you sending calls to voicemail? Because if you send a call to voicemail, that's like the graveyard of
Yeah.
leads.
When we were talking, and you just alluded to this, but when we were talking earlier, you mentioned the team culture, specifically in this example, marketing, even multiple people on the marketing side helping each other, but then also the next step with operations as a general category term of handling the intake and the conversations with new patients and the follow-up, trying to get those people booked for an initial appointment. And I know in my experience, those two things in any industry, whether it's healthcare, especially otherwise, it's easy for those to be siloed.
Very.
Like Ken's on the marketing side here, I'm on the sales side.
Yes.
We go to lunch every other week just so we know what's going on, right, Ken? We should start doing that. I actually go over and I distract him. He thinks I'm joking around, but what I'm really doing is creating a team culture. But in all seriousness, for you, when you say that, Emily, how do you do that? Like, what are the specific things that you guys do in your Lightwave practice groups to foster true team connection with marketing, ops, anybody else that's important? Is that just like staying in touch? Is it, hey, we set the tone early and have consistent meetings? What are actions people can take to accomplish that?
I think regular engagement with the practice leadership team, right? So when I say practice leadership team, I'm talking about the practice manager, right? And then any kind of lead doctors or clinicians that are part of the organization, right? So my team is on a reoccurring weekly conversation. So as Lightwave, our practices use the entrepreneurial operating system. So we have a level 10 call every week. The marketing team is a part of that.
That from Traction?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Familiar.
And so we're on that call so we can help bring up issues or resolve issues or celebrate wins, right, with them directly on that call to help kind of keep that team engagement with them as much as possible. That's really helped a lot. I think one area that I'd like us to get better at is reporting. So we are reporting on leads, but we're not reporting so much on like lead to appointment conversion or appointment to new patient conversion or treatment acceptance, right? So as an operations and marketing team, we need to collaborate better and kind of come up with those ways to talk about those things, right? Whether that's a report or we have our scorecard or a metric that talks about that.
Do EHRs have anything like that typically in dental? Like showing show percentage, is it fairly easy? I'm sure you can export data, but is there any good native reporting in most of them that's like giving you a chart of that type of stuff?
Patient management system.
Or patient management system, yeah.
It's not that I have been able to find.
Yeah.
So like we have to piece different reports together, right? So we'll be using like our communications system where all the phone calls come into, right? So we'll be tracking that versus the new patients that came in versus like canceled appointments, kept appointments. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a huge opportunity for us to grow into and improve upon that. Because I've been, we talked about Coach K, so as I'm starting to dig into the data, I have to. I can't. I'm super.
He's got the all-time wins. All-time wins. Can't say anything he won. I'll do some stuff later. You keep going. This is important.
Well, I think part of what I've always been very team and collaborative approach. But when I watched recently the new show Bear on Hulu, there was all this conversation about working together, and everybody has like an action and a thing that they do that benefits the whole, right? And a part of that show, one of the characters is reading the book, right? Coach K is leading, I can't remember the name of it. And so it made me think about it. I was like, well, why is that connected? Right? How is the basketball coach connected sort of community and everybody working together? And started reading his book, and I was realizing that like each team is different. So every year he has a different sort of culture on the team.
Yeah.
right? And that he builds up everybody's strengths and communicates with one another, and everybody's in it, right? And when I think about like when I think about working with the practices, each one is different. Each one has a different culture. Each one has different skill sets or things that they bring to the table. And as as the marketing team, we modify how we engage and interact with them to get the optimal results for practice. And that's why
that makes sense.
Go ahead. I think that's why I'm so passionate about Coach K right now, just because I'm very sophomoric about the book.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, Coach K's record speaks for itself. And also, he made the transition from not having, like, the best NBA talent and then did.
Yeah.
And so, like, obviously you have to change a lot of stuff probably to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But just for all the listeners, I did attend his retirement party in April of 2022 in New Orleans. He got he invited like 80,000 people. I was there. And they lost to Carolina.
Okay, I'm guessing there's a joke here because
it's the Final Four. The Final Four.
Oh, okay.
The Final Four was his retirement party. Actually, he had
that's
two.
Right.
The other one was in Durham. We spoiled that. Felt bad. But the next one was great. But obviously, he's one of the greatest coaches of any sport to ever live.
Well, but if we can take from him, we can take the ideas that he generated and created to get all those wins. Maybe I can make my, I can have a positive impact on my team.
For sure, and I think it's like, that's just really good advice for anybody. But if you're a practice owner and you have multiple locations, if you're a part of a managed services platform, whether it's a DSO or something in another specialty, there are different teams that have different personalities, and it's human beings.
That's right.
That's the deal. And having a structure of what you're trying to implement definitely helps, but you just need to at least be aware of that. And the way that you communicate with different teams and people has an impact on how they receive that. So that's cool that you've been thinking through that. And that we're thinking about this, we're talking about marketing. And this is how important this is to being able to market successfully, because if you don't do that, then there's the classic rift between marketing people and sales or ops.
Yes.
Where the worst example is ops is like, marketing is like, look at all these leads we're generating. You guys can't close anything.
Right.
And then sales or ops is like, these leads suck. And neither side is correct typically, and then B, there's insight that they're both missing that would make the whole thing more effective and easier for all of them, and they totally should be on the same page. So if you don't have what I talked about there, but you have metrics, it doesn't really matter, because the metrics are just going to be used for one party to be mad at the other one.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I think that goes back to the idea of, like, in some ways too, having a team means you all have a common goal, right? So if you're playing basketball, your goal is to win the game, right? Or whatever it is, right? So in the same, when you're talking about patient care, your goal is to make sure that the patient receives the care that they need, right? And how are we working together to achieve that, as well as, practice growth and those other metrics. But as a team, if we're all moving in the same direction, focusing on that one goal, then we're all kind of questioning one another and collaborating on what's happening at each phase of the the cycle.
One thing that just popped in my head as well for you is, Emily is coming in as a part of the DSO to help and support individual practice brands.
Yes.
And so I feel like a lot of practices, they're starting to become a part of an organization or a family like Lightwave. They may have hesitance to, this person's from corporate. They don't know what all this stuff is like. And then you also mentioned having the dentist or the former practice owner involved. Like, how do you specifically deal with that dynamic? Because I'm sure many marketing folks that are trying to connect with new practices that come onto their platform, this is important, and I think it can be difficult. So what do you focus on, in addition to the concepts you were talking about before, to make them feel comfortable and like you are thinking about the same common goal?
I think ultimately, you have to listen to them, what's important to them, right? And then we create a common goal that matches, their values and the growth goals that they have for the practice, right? So I take a very soft approach when a new practice joins, right? And there's a lot of questions, understanding their needs, what are the things that they're wanting, and then we put together kind of plan and action around fulfilling those needs, right? So if you can, I think from a philosophy, being philosophical about it, if I'm meeting their needs and what they want, they're more likely to hear me, and be a part of the team sort of approach, right? So if I come in with a sledgehammer and I'm like, we have to change everything, everything's terrible, that's never going to work, right? They're definitely not going to want to listen to anything else that I have to say. But if we come in and we're kind of soft, collaborative team, then when I need to have a hard conversation about a vendor who's not performing, then we can have that conversation, because we listened to them, before, and paid attention to what they thought was important.
Totally. Yeah, because I think what happens a lot is people come in from corporate. They're like, hey, this is the Lightwave model. We know this works.
Yeah.
It's data driven. We're doing it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, by the way, maybe that's true, but it's not going to work if because you still have to have people doing things for that machine to operate, even if it's proven.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter if if they're sort of revolting against, or if they just feel like, what the hell, they don't even understand what we're all about here.
Right, exactly, right. If you just come in and like you think you're the best, you know it all, right? Like nobody likes that. I have one example of this and how this played out.
Yeah.
So about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, we instituted online scheduling for everybody. Right. We said we're picking a vendor, we're instituting and implementing online scheduling for everyone. Right. To this day, 2 years ago, I still get like negative feedback in regards to like this heavy-handed approach.
Yeah.
Right. And now I think all the practices signed up for online scheduling, I probably only have 4 left that are doing it on a regular basis. Right. And so, and I had a regional director who was like, remember, Emily, when you instituted online scheduling and you forced everybody to do it, right? Like, and that just didn't, go over well. So now I've learned from that, and it's really more like much slower sort of rollout of systems.
That is a really good example, especially because I imagine, online scheduling is something I think a lot of people are considering right now.
Yeah.
If they don't already have it. And online scheduling makes sense. Like every other industry has it. You should allow people to schedule and interact with you however they want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's other things to consider, but I can see that being difficult if people feel like they're being forced to do something that they haven't thought about and whatnot.
Right.
Probably some workflow changes here and there. Are they a big deal? Probably not. But who cares if someone feels like they're being told what to do? They're just gonna, throw a fit about it. Which I guess I understand. By the way, what is your take on online scheduling? Just side topic. Do you think it's something that practices should have, or what do you feel about that?
I am a huge proponent of online scheduling. I think reducing any kind of barrier for patients to schedule an appointment is like, number one thing, right?
Yeah.
But I'm coming at it from a pure marketing leads driving perspective, right? There's a lot of operational pieces that need to be put into place to make it like super effective on that side, which again is the team sort of collaboration. But let's make it easy. Let's get everybody scheduled online. Like let's have every particular appointment online available. New patients, existing patients, emergencies, consults, everything. I'm totally into that. I would like to see some more opportunities for better platforms for online scheduling integration.
Yeah. We're starting, I think, to integrate with some, and there's a lot of different ones, but I agree. I think some are not as fully integrated, as others. And one other thing, I think, you don't have to immediately have every single type of appointment. I think you should. but like you can phase it in, right? With different main categories. A lot of times I find the practice or a doc, they're worried about this like one particular situation,
Yeah.
and just don't allow people to book online for that yet until you know more about it. So you can
You
you
wouldn't
can
want to
warm up
put
to it.
like any like super like you wouldn't want to have a root canal. Like you wouldn't want to have somebody
Yeah,
be able to schedule a root canal, right?
yeah, like a
But like
major procedure. Yeah,
right, exactly. So the one thing that I've started kind of testing out and getting the conversation back into online scheduling is around doctor appointments. So we all know hygiene capacity is a significant struggle for the industry right now. There's just not enough hygienists to meet the demand for all the oral health care that's needed. So we're kind of toying, or not, like we're just testing out the idea of doing a lot more around filling doctor schedules before hygiene visits, right? So you can come in and have your initial exam and then schedule hygiene, or you can schedule like Invisalign, implants, all the other kind of consults, emergency exams to fill the doctor schedule, and get people to so that people can get in to care for their oral health without having to wait such a long time for a hygiene appointment.
interesting.
And so that's been a kind of like a foothold or like a toe into more of a conversation around online scheduling now than it used to be.
That's cool. Yeah. Ken, how far away have I gotten us from where we want to be?
My job is to get conversation flowing, and if it's flowing, I'm
Dude,
happy.
great job.
Well, it's easy to talk about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. So,
Yeah, I think I'll comment on. I just love that we talked about teams and the messaging of when you're interacting with a new culture. If you're coming in from the platform side, for lack of a better word, and we'll talk about some more metrics too. But I mean, that's it. Like if you're you're just not going to be able to implement anything if you don't accomplish that. So I'm glad that is what you prioritize.
well, so the team collapse. So, like when you think about, I can't generate leads or understand what the message is that the practice wants to put out there if I don't have collaboration, engagement, and agreement from the practice. They're like the be all end all. I will say too, like so Lightwave, we're really focused on leadership. So we are a dental leadership organization as opposed to like a dental support organization. So our whole approach is to allow the doctor to be the leader of their practice, right? And they have the final say. So there's no like advertising campaign that I'm going to put out there that they don't approve beforehand. So that naturally creates more collaboration, right? It takes time. It takes longer, I think, sometimes to like see results because we're doing all this sort of engagement and collaboration with the leadership team. But I think ultimately everybody is much more focused on results when we do it that way.
So you guys are a DLO, right?
Yes, that's right.
You guys, is that what you use internally?
Yes.
You say DLO? Okay,
Yes.
great. I didn't know that. I love that. That's awesome.
That's right. Yeah. So like our community is all around doctors being the natural leader of the practice.
Yeah.
Right. And they
And
really
I remember
know-
I personally went to your event 2 years ago, maybe, and you can tell that's in the fabric. I mean, the leadership team on the Lightwave side, you can tell is also that way. Like all the speakers that were up there, I mean, it was very impressive, and so much more about the stuff that we're talking about right now than it was. I mean, obviously there was information and analytics and those types of things, but it felt more like a leadership training event
yeah.
than
and-
anything else, which it makes sense as that's what y'all's identity is. That's
Well,
really
and
cool.
And when I have conversations with practices around marketing activities, I want to empower them to understand and be like really a part of the process, right? So
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
that's like, making sure that they have regular communication with any kind of vendors, opportunity to sign up to hear, webinars, or, we go through the funnel, and giving them information to help them make decisions, right? So even if it's just like tracking the marketing spend so that they can see where everything is at any point in time, then they can make better decisions just, for them and their goals.
Totally.
It's really,
Very
Love it. Ken, do we have any other big questions we got to hit from our list
We don't
here?
have to. We don't have to, but I want to ask one more, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Since you see a lot of dental organizations or practices, are there any key traits kind of separating high performers from middle or lower
Oh.
performers without throwing anybody under the bus? Like, what are the success
Great.
factors?
Okay, so from marketing, I think there's some key components. One, they have a solid marketing budget, right? The industry average is like 1.5% of revenue, right? But if they're spending 2.5 or a little more, right, but they're spending it wisely, I think that's a big factor, right? I think like we talked about before, the integration of marketing and ops, huge factor, right? So making sure we're tracking all of the marketing activities. Are we generating leads? But then are the leads generating new appointments? And are those appointments generating new patients? And making sure that there's that everybody's working together to get to that goal, right? New patient goal. And then I think having marketing professionals on your team. So if you have somebody that's what they do, like they're focused on marketing activities, you're going to naturally see more results as opposed to somebody who is like they have 3 other like hats they're wearing in the practice, and so they can't really like dig in and make some positive, having more positive impacts in time, because marketing takes time. There's nothing that's like quick and easy about it.
And like thought too, right? Time
Yeah.
of just like thinking, and I think a lot of people be like, oh yeah, so and so is so good at TikTok, I've seen it, and then it's like, well, we got that covered.
Right.
I mean, what are you gonna do with it? Should you be doing anything with it? Well,
Yeah.
there's other countries around the world that are listening to us through it. What does that mean? Just kidding.
Are you doing it
I
consistent?
think that's true.
Right? Like, I realize too, there's a lot of testing that goes on, right? In marketing, are you testing the message? Are you testing the channel that's being used? And are you willing to challenge what you've always done? That's another big piece. So did I answer your question, Ken?
This is great.
Yeah.
I think we need to probably call it a day, though, because
We've got so much good stuff. Hey, everybody knows how to find the Coach K book, whatever. The Bear. I love that show. Seen season 1. FX, right?
Hulu.
Hulu. It's on Hulu. Sorry.
Yeah, totally watch it. It's amazing.
The Bear is killer. If you haven't seen it, phenomenal. Can't wait to see season 2.
Yeah.
Glad I already know about the Coach K thing, so I won't get like heated in the moment. But I love that show.
Yeah.
So, and I love what Emily talked about today. It was awesome.
Yeah,
this has been
remember,
great.
team collaboration is huge.
That's the deal.
stuff.
Emily,
Thanks so
tell
much.
us where should people go to find you guys?
They're great. So lightwavedental.com, right? That's our website. Check us out on LinkedIn, Lightwave Dental. See all the happenings and the amazing stuff that our practices are doing. Huge spotlights for them on LinkedIn.